Good evening. Welcome to the PoliticIt podcast. Tonight we have Corrine Johnson from Utah Parents United. Lovely to have you.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to talk about what's been going on, right?
Yeah.
Nicole Mason, president of Utah Parents United, of course, spoke at the Capitol on our news that's spread all over the country.
Nationwide news, right?
Yeah, that one of our school board committees decided to ban the Bible.
Yeah.
And remove the Bible from the school. I mean, what can you say, right?
Well, we really, I'd like to say we're speechless and stunned, but in a way we're kind of not surprised.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, it's amazing to me. I've been talking about this on Twitter, and it amazes me that large groups of people basically are coming back to me and saying, well, if you wouldn't pass stupid laws, this wouldn't happen. And I just think, what in the world?
Yeah.
A stupid law? They don't want people to understand what the content of these books that we're trying to get rid of actually is.
Well, and let's talk a minute about this law, because when they talk about the law, they're referring to HB 374. Right. And it was passed in the 2022 legislative session. And before this law existed, you could challenge the Bible in a Utah school. 100%. Anybody could turn in a challenge form for any book in any library in any Utah school, and they could challenge a book for violence, vulgarity, and age appropriateness. That process existed before the law. And everyone wants to blame this challenge on the law in terms of a policy issue, but the law did not create this challenge. This existed before. What HB 374 did was state that if the passages meet the legal definition of sensitive materials, which already existed, exactly. And sensitive materials is really, really, really graphically, sexually explicit stuff. So I mean, parents, if your kids are watching this, maybe send them out of the room, because this is graphic material. We're talking about genitals in an active state of stimulation, fondling of genitals and pubic region, acts of sexual intercourse, sodomy, and rape. Like, these are not mild issues, and it's not a reference to these things. It is actual descriptions of these things. So all the
descriptions of the acts, not some subtle hint that this is going on.
No, we're not talking about like what we see in the Bible. He laid with her. Like, this is not. No, this is. And the thing was in the thing. I mean, like, it's graphic. We're talking graphic sex here.
Right.
Erotica. Right. Pornography. And all the law
stuff
did
that Playboy wouldn't have even published.
It's true.
Right. And this is penthouse.
This is penthouse, playhouse, and it's in our schools. When we send excerpts on our challenges to school board members to let them know that a parent has challenged a book, the emails will bounce back because they won't pass the school district's pornography filters. That's what we're talking about.
Well, yeah, and what's interesting about this law is when these books. In our Republican caucus meeting, I mean, Todd Weiler actually had these things in brown paper bags. And everybody in the room said, we're not showing this out on the Senate floor. Right?
It's too explicit.
And it's just, to me, to compare those things, it made me sick, actually.
Yeah, it is really interesting how this is straight into something that, we can talk about the religious value of the Bible as people of faith, and I think we should. As a person of faith, I can speak to my own personal witness that I believe the Bible is the Word of God. But even taking a religious perspective out of it, if we stick just to policy or to what the policy is that this school district is applying, when you look just at their policy, they applied it wrong. There's flaws in the policy that created this decision. And we would argue as Utah Parents United and personally that any policy decision that leads to the removal of the most read book, the most owned book, the first book ever printed on a printing press in the history of the world, that removes that book and says it is not age appropriate for children, the policy's flawed. That it is, and it's frustrating to me that the Davis School District, they're softening their stance now, but the first response we got in communication with them, and they've been great communicating with us as parents. I have to say that. We've had nothing but open, honest lines of communication with Superintendent Linford, with School Board President Liz Mumford, with the other school board members. They have been great in communicating. But the first responses we got were, we followed the process correctly, and we believe in this process, and we believe in the appeals process. And I was quite surprised that that was the response, because they're stating that they think that they got this right, and I don't think they did. All of America, most conservatives, don't think.
I mean, this
they got this decision right.
To make every major news source.
Exactly.
Right?
If this decision truly fell in line with community standards, it would not have made national news. Let's just be honest about it. And the policy states 3 areas. And this is let me back up a little, if you don't mind. And hopefully it's okay to everybody here that's watching that I'm being a little technical, but I think it's really important that everyone understands the process, and that this isn't HB 374's fault. And HB 374 actually was applied correctly in this case. And so the committee, when they're given a challenge, so a regular individual challenges the Bible, and this individual said in the challenge form, we think Utah Parents United is a hate-filled organization, and they didn't challenge the Bible, and the Bible is the most sex-ridden pornographic book around. Well, the committee of 7 individuals ruled that the Bible is not sensitive materials. So it does not contain explicit descriptions of sex. It does not violate the bright line rule. It is not.
So 374 had nothing
to do with this.
Right.
It passed the 374 test, which means Anne Frank will pass the test, and Shakespeare will pass the test. All these classic novels that opponents of the law keep saying, if we keep HB 374, then no one will be able to read the Diary of Anne Frank. It's not true, because the Bible passed the test. So the law is sound. The principles in HB 374 are sound, and the Bible was to be found not sexually explicit. So that argument is thrown out. So then the committee goes to district policy. Okay, and this is policy that existed before HB 374. And they get to decide if the Bible is age appropriate. The definition to decide age appropriateness due to violence and vulgarity is based upon 3 standards. Expert reviews of the work and opinions, the committee's own personal beliefs and experiences. And that one's a big deal. And third, community standards. So the committee, clearly we believe in this instance, put their own personal experiences and beliefs above expert witnesses or reviews, because there's probably a million reviews of the Bible. Okay, well, that in itself states that the Bible has serious literary value, right?
Right.
And then community standards, again, we live in a community that is based, the very foundation of our community is based upon the Bible and the principles in the Bible, and it's an integral part of the history of our community. So, the majority of people in our community probably own a Bible. It's probably in their home, and they read it with their children. So the community standard guideline clearly on this instance is going to fall on the side of the Bible is age appropriate. So you have to think that they took their personal experiences and their personal things and put that above the other criteria. And that is a flaw in the process, because they don't have to report it. We don't know. We're guessing that that's what they did, because when the committee made the ruling, they didn't have to issue a report. Well, think about that. I mean, They didn't have to say why they decided. So 7 people have decided there's no literary value to the Bible, and no one knows why.
Pretty wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, we've talked to Davis School District and said, you have to change your process, and every book challenge that comes out of your district should have a report with the challenge that tells us exactly what passages were challenged, exactly why or why not it is vulgar or violent, and exactly what community standards were looked at. What did they use to measure community standards? What were their personal experiences, and did they apply those to this process? How did they weigh that? And then the third, of course, is what expert reviews and opinions and reviews did the committee look at to come to the determination the Bible has no literary value? So we asked immediately for that report. We haven't received anything, but they need to change that in their policy. And I think this is a warning to other school districts too, John, that they need to do this quick too in their school districts. And the Book of Mormon's next.
Yeah.
So Davis School District has some work to do. But this has nothing to do with HB 374. Right. That was applied correctly.
Yeah. We'll be right back. We're going to take a break.
Mom, did you know that an average kid like me only talks to their parents around 35 minutes a day?
Wow, that's really sad.
If we're only going to get 35 minutes with our parents, don't you think that we should make sure that what they say matters? Maybe if we talk about important stuff, we will talk more.
You know, Nellie, I think you're right. Parents, when we talk to our kids, what we say really does matter. And that can put a lot of pressure on us. But don't worry, at Utah Parents United, we've got your back. Download the Homefront program this summer and talk to your kids about things that really matter. We've partnered with United Families International to adapt the program into a daily course. You can spend a few minutes talking to your kids about why families are important, how mothers and fathers matter, how to have healthy relationships, and how to overall strengthen that relationship and the bond you have with your child. Go to utahparentsunited.org to download the program or follow us daily on social media. We hope you talk with your kid more than 35 minutes a day. And we hope that you talk about things that really matter.
Welcome back to the podcast. Of course, we're talking to Corrine Johnson from Utah Parents United. It's interesting. Have you watched some of these stories that are all over the U.S. now?
Watch them. We've been fielding news interviews and news requests nonstop. We had comments in the New York Times, NBC National News, CBS National News, CNN National News. I really hope that Tucker Carlson calls me to do an interview. He would be second to you in preference.
Well, yeah, he could do another Twitter interview, right?
Yeah, Twitter. On Twitter, I would
kicked him off of Fox News. Yeah.
Yes. So it has been very interesting to see this spread into a nationwide news story. And the comments that are flying around our social media, anybody can follow us on social media. Yeah. You just go to Instagram and look up Utah Parents United. So and see some of the news stories. Of course, we had the press conference here in Salt Lake with the discussion. But
Now I don't know if that press conference was filmed, but.
We have the whole thing live streamed on our Facebook.
Oh,
so
really?
If you missed the press conference, you just go to Utah Parents United on our Facebook and you can watch the entire live stream of the press conference there. So we've got this covered.
Powerful comments, right? Everybody, amazing. I think, hit it out of the park. And I loved when your president, Nicole, actually said, "God bless America."
Well, right? I think that's really how we have to feel right now as Americans when we look at this situation and realize that we can say, God bless America, that we have the right to appeal decisions and to challenge decisions and to protect children. There's this idea in our nation of, what is the real definition of liberty or freedom? And I think people forget we're a democratic republic. Right. And in that process, we use our laws and we use our power, our legislative power, or the power of the people to protect those that can't protect themselves, right, that don't have a voice, the minority. And there's no larger group in the nation and in Utah, because we know we have the largest population of children 18 and under in the nation here in our state, that really can't speak for themselves, and that is children. And so we have an obligation and a moral duty as citizens and as legislators like yourself, right, to protect children. And that is all we're trying to do. As parents, that's all we want, is to make sure that addictive stimulants are not provided through government schools with our tax dollars to children
Right.
that will harm them and cause lifelong repercussions of addiction and mental, emotional stress, trauma, all of the things that pornography has been shown to cause. That's all we want. And I think that message is being completely lost in this discussion. And I think that's what they want too. Let's focus on the Bible.
They
Let's
want to
weaponize
confuse
religion.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want to confuse people. They want to tell people that the law is vague, which it isn't.
No.
Right? And they want to cause confusion.
Yes.
You know? And it makes me sick. If you think about the sexualization of children, you're talking about this protection. I mean, I feel a moral obligation to protect the innocence of kids.
Yes.
And that's what we want to do, right? And, you look at some of these efforts at the UN now, they actually have stated that children have sexual rights and they're sexual beings.
Yes.
And to me, that's going to destroy them as individuals, I think.
Yes, this is something that's very concerning to so many parents in Utah and across the nation is this drive to try and give children sexual rights and to say that parents do not love their children, that their ideals of our values and beliefs are harmful to children because they're in contrast to a child's desire to be a sexual being, to explore their gender, to explore their identity, to explore their sexuality at these very young ages of 2, 3, 4, 5, that children have the ability and need to be able to explore their sexual identity. And it is harmful to kids and it damages parent-children relationships. And I think it's an intentional effort to try and disrupt the family and disrupt those things that we know are good, that the data and the statistics are so clear. And you see it coming from Ken Gardner Institute and the governor's office, which sometimes we feel maybe, don't reflect some of the more conservative views. But even that data is saying that the best possible success for children and for people in life is to graduate from high school, go to college, get married, and have children.
Right.
That is the path that leads to success. And for those of us that want to promote family and want to promote healthy relationships and marriage and children, and we want to do that in the absence of a pornography and sexuality, we are
and sexual exploitation.
Sexual exploitation. What about, we are the ones who are hurting kids. We're the ones who aren't letting kids explore their sexuality. No, that's just not right. And we have sex trafficking, like you mentioned, sexual exploitation. It's only skyrocketed over the last decade. And that, we believe, is in direct correlation to these efforts to sexualize children. So we agree this is a big, big issue. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of the issue, this removal of the Bible in schools.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Book of Mormon's probably next, right?
It is. Well, it is. They actually already have received a challenge, and they need to fix some things first, or else we're going to keep going down this path. And I think the decision will be appealed. It will go before elected officials who were elected to represent a constituency.
Well, and who have accountability.
And they have to state in open, in the public, exactly why they're making their decision. And this committee didn't have to do that. And that's why I think this decision will be appealed.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming by. We're out of time, but
yes.
I mean, last words, what would you say to parents?
No, if you want to help your kids by being the strongest parent advocate you can be, then that's what we want to help you do. So come follow us at Utah Parents United and learn how to be an advocate for your child. We have tools and resources. We also keep you up to date on what's going on in education, what's going on in politics in Utah, what's going on in legislation. And we just want to help you be the best parent you can be. So find us at utahparentsunited.org or on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We're everywhere.
One of the greatest parent groups in the country. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks.